Now we're trying to think different.
Welcome to the show with your friend and mine. So tell me, Dr. Squee, who's it gonna be this time? We like to hear you talk, and we love to hear you listen. And if you are not subscribed, you won't know what you're missing. So welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Headphones up. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. I'm Dr. Squee and this is my show. This is an interview which I recorded at Squeefest. I don't know which one because this intro is going to go in front of the rest of them to go out. However, if you go to the QR code at the top, or if you follow the link justgiving.com/page/thinkowl, you can donate to the Owl Centre charity, which is a neurodivergent charity, which all the interviews for Squeefest, which was my 24-hour online charity marathon of interviews. So we're raising money for the Owl Centre charity, which is a cause very close to my heart with neurodiversity. And you can also buy a single which we made. That is Think Different. If you just go to drsquee.bandcamp.com, or if you go to the Dr. Squee Show on YouTube, you can see the video now at youtube.com/Dr. Squee. But without further ado, here's this week's interview from Squeefest. Enjoy. Well, I'll welcome my guest on anyway. Laura Roberts, how are you doing? Thank you very much for joining us. Sorry for being a bit late.
No, absolutely fine. I'm in awe because I think you've been going all night, which is outstanding. So
yeah, and each
amazing,
time I do this, I'm a couple of years older, so it's like it's more of a challenge each year, and I'm doing it with some nerve pain in my neck at the moment, which has been the fun one this time.
Oh, not fun. But you still sound very kind of in the room, and so I'm in awe because I did log on last night before I went to bed and had a little listen as well. So it was kind of like, and yeah, absolutely. It's phenomenal, actually. So, and a huge thank you for doing it for the Owl Centre.
No, thank you for allowing me to represent you guys. It's really important to me. It's I think some of the stories I've heard have made it even more important. If anything, it's kind of lovely because when you start to lull, it's one thing to have a view of your friends lifting with some energy. There's a friend of mine, Blaine, who I talk to. We laughingly call that slot the ADHD off because both can talk for our respective England and Canada. I kind of got a little energy buzz from him, but it was just hearing some of the stories about how neurodiversity is treated around the world. The thing I was saying before this was like, I don't want the next me to get to 45 before they get diagnosed, but then hearing about places where people are kept out of society, kept locked indoors in inhumane conditions because they're neurodiverse. Yeah, let's stop that first. Okay, it's like my thing will wait. Like that's a good thing also, but that, yeah, hearing about that works just amazing. I think
you must have had some really interesting conversations over the last however many hours. I think
the thing that surprised me. I mean, sorry, I was just going to say it's like I think it was really great to speak to someone really on the ground in Israel was just fascinating. But just to hear that. What side you're on of what, like I just think it's abhorrent that people are dying both sides, but it just highlights what the people are like on the ground. It highlights the fact that even though they've got this government which many people don't understand why they're doing whatever, at the same time they invest a lot of money in mental health. I never would have guessed that. You assume when there's these slightly totalitarian regimes. I'm not educated enough to really talk on Israel structure, but let's just say I doubt many people assume they had a really great mental health service and a real great health service in general. That's not something I would assume based on all the reports you hear.
And I think that was Squee, one of the things that I've been thinking about is about that not assumption of, isn't it? Because your thing's about thinking differently. And I think it is about not making assumptions, and that's on like the individual, but it's also on like you're saying, that more societal level, isn't it, in terms of, you know, what people experience, you know, and how we can open up conversations, I suppose. I thought it was really interesting. I turned on at one point, and I think it was Madhavi from India was on, and she was saying like the waiting lists in India compared to here are just amazing, you know, and it makes you think really around systems and structures, doesn't it? And actually, why does ours take so long for diagnosis?
And you think about the differences between our country and others, and we're very quick as a society to judge other societies by what they don't do, which we think is valuable. What they're valuing is mental health, and education seems to be valued very highly as well. Yeah, maybe we could learn a little something ourselves. Like I had the feeling that during this conversation with everyone, that not only would I learn ways in which undoubtedly our service is night and day over a lot, but at the same time, there's a lot we could do better, and there's a lot of ways in which, as other economies are building up their health services and actually looking at mental health, others deteriorating. It's like it's very easy for the tables to turn. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Oh, Lynette, we had a wonderful chat last night. This is extraordinary. Who would know that Israel would provide such a good mental health service? Well, that is unexpected. Yeah, it's and I think it's just harder for the thing which just stopped getting reported on because it just got so normalized was they weren't reporting, you know, and showing the horrific nature of things out there. And it's like to have someone, it's harder to just dismiss it as Israel one thing, Palestine one thing, everyone's one thing. It's like things are complicated, and I think we could do better at kind of trying to admit that it's complicated. It's never simple. That's extraordinary. So what is happening in this country? The waiting list, it's ridiculous. It's because it's not valued highly enough. It's like with I was listening to a podcast the other day where they were talking about new legislation they're trying to get passed, so benefits will be linked to the essentials, which has never been, and that's insane. I think originally it wasn't because if you watch the videos of the rollout of the NHS and of the welfare state, they talk about it glowingly about like, wow, we're going to make sure everyone's got a safe net, everyone's going to be okay. It was celebrated, so I think they didn't feel a need to because they knew they were going to keep it well funded. Or so they thought. I think it's people with good intentions not realizing there might be bad actors later who won't see that vision through.
Yeah, and I think, you know, because like you'll know, my background is social work, and you know, the welfare state was started in a very different time, wasn't it? And when you go back to sort of 1850s or whatever, when you're looking at that one, but then our current welfare state came in after the war, didn't it? After the Second World War, and that was where both the social care and the health came. And when you think, you know, how long ago that was, and actually how society's changed, and even like our awareness. So, like thinking back to when the health service came into fruition, probably neurodivergent wasn't even a thing. People might not have even recognized it. And I think certainly since, happy to say I'm in my 50s, and it's kind of like, even since I was in school, I think when I look back, because obviously, I work in a service for people with learning disability and autism. And I look back and I think, reflect on my school, and I think there was probably a good handful of people in every class that actually probably did have some diagnosis that was never diagnosed, and it's kind of, and so you've got all these different pressures, I suppose, and society's changed as well in itself, hasn't it? So it's kind of, the demand is really different from what the setup was, and I think over the years they try and evolve it, but the sheer demand at the moment in terms of, for example, autism assessments it's phenomenal. I can't, and I think that structures that we have and the services that we have or don't have that we should have are also sort of something, aren't they? You know, we need, you know, I think it's about systems and getting that bit right, because even though people are diagnosed and there's a huge waiting list in this country, isn't there? But actually, you know, what happens, what's the impact of that diagnosis for someone as well? It's a huge sort of
Uh, and they've shown time and again that it's money in things like health services, mental and otherwise, and to education. If you get those right, the economy, like it has such a positive effect on less strain on services, because people are well educated, so they kind of tend to, through education, look after themselves better, understand the kind of world they're in. And it's like when people say, it's like, oh, where were all these autistic people like yesterday? What, you, the ones in Bedlam, or the ones on the street, or the ones who in every walk of life disadvantage? You know, we tend to be the ones who struggle to keep down a job, like, you know, the ones you were calling lazy or stupid or whatever you were calling us. Yeah, that's where we were. Like, you just because we're being recognized doesn't mean like we didn't exist before, because you chose not to see us.
Yeah. It's really, because it comes back to, doesn't it, sort that my role. So my current role, I lead a service, but in previous to that, I was what they call a principal social worker, which is more of a kind of strategic kind of role, and you're looking at, I suppose, quality of practice, and you're looking at you know, service development, that sort of thing. And one of the things that we did in the county that I work in was around co-production. And I think now that we've got more awareness, I think it's about how do we co-produce services, because what you find is sometimes you'll have a service, but actually it doesn't quite fit the need, because it's been, so for example, an autism service being designed by non-neurodivergent individuals, so it's not going to hit the mark. You're going to always kind of not meet the needs of your populace. And it's, so for me, that was one of my big learnings, was around how do you get people involved in designing services, or what do services look like that actually meet needs. And I think there's a lot of top-down politics, isn't there? And I think, but actually grassroots up is the answer in the longer term, because otherwise you don't quite get it right. So it's interesting, I think, because I think that's where things potentially need to go. And there are some sort of national, so we've got Think Local Act Personal. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a expert by experience cohort and group, and they look at, you know, lots of different things, but a lot around co-production. But I don't know if there's anything specific maybe for neurodivergent people. I'm not sure if there's any sort of emphasis around that, you know, and how that can look and what services can be.
We have seen we have seen a lot of services eroded, a lot of kind of places where government used to co-do things with charities. They then put on the charities, which they then give you some funding for a while and then eventually cut that. So it happens by inches, it seems. But how have you kept going with the OWL over the years? Actually, let's start a bit earlier than that. How did you first get involved with the OWL? Were you there at the foundation?
No, I wasn't actually. Although, I mean, I've known Nikki for a long time, so I knew of it, and I knew that Nikki was really passionate about it, and it's something that's really special for her. And I think I was sort of aware, and I'd done a little bit of sort of work with the OWL Centre itself, not the charity, around safeguarding. So I'd kind of done some, because that's a lot of my experiences around safeguarding adults.
Yeah.
I should say adults at risk, not every adult in existence. But so I kind of aligned in on that side, and then Nikki asked me to be a trustee, which was, you know, an absolute honour. So I sat in on that, and then things just evolved really. but it's been it's a really it's an exciting time actually for the Owl Centre charity, because they're sort of on the cusp really of developing some. They've just developed the Waiting Well, which I'm sure somebody will have spoken to you about.
Oh, we that's how
which is
I
a
came aware of
great
your
tool.
charity. Was Nicola and I got put together for an interview for Waiting Well.
Oh, okay. And then there's lots of other things on the horizon as well, and they've just, they do the overseas work as well. And so you had Matavi on earlier, didn't you, in terms of India, and we've got Vietnam as well. So I just sort of, I suppose it's sort of evolved, and I was very honoured that she asked me in terms of taking on the chair role. And I think some of that comes from my time when I was doing the so the principal social worker role, because at that point you are looking at wider organisational and looking at, the more sort of structure. And I suppose my safeguarding background's always been a bit around the scrutiny and the making sure everything's in place and, following all the procedures, etc. So it's kind of evolved really.
Oh, I mean, one of the things I was so struck by was how kind of hands-on the charity were. It was really lovely. Like previously, I mean, there's been various levels. Sometimes they've just sent me a T-shirt, sometimes not that, and they've gone, "Oh, thanks for doing that. That's it." Other times there's been a bit of back and forth, and they might have shared a few tweets, whatever. I think it's the first time, I've had a charity send, but like the whole idea with the pounds was just amazing. It just really expanded what Squeefest can be, and like where I've just found out all this stuff about myself. It's feels really important to now I'm kind of going to reword this, not just like the next me, but also me in some countries, and as fortunate as me, he's got the same stuff going on for them as I do, and it's going to be so much more difficult for them, and in some cases being made more difficult for them for no good reason, which was quite maddening while talking to America. It's I never thought we'd get to the day when someone's able to question whether or not or to use autism as something which needs to be cured, and just put junk science into it at that level. It's quite astounding. I'm sure I was going to ask you a question somewhere in that, but I think I just went down a rabbit hole.
No, it's fine. It's interesting though, because so at work I have neurodivergent colleagues, and I was talking with one this week in supervision, and we were talking about though, like the breadth of wealth that people bring to so in work, the breadth of experience or perspective that people can bring in that is different, and I think that's really, like, for me, that's like a strength. It gives, and it's a shame you referencing America and what's going on, and it's just a shame that, and I think it's probably that certain group don't recognize it, because I think within experts by experience and groups and families, people do recognize that, but it's that sort of it's political warfare, really, isn't it? In terms of
there was to your point about I believe you said something about kind of diversity of people working around you and things like that, and it seems like they're trying to foster anything. But this was from a silly sitcom, which I think might have made it to 2 seasons. But I always remember this like one bit where this guy said, if you're dumb, surround yourself with smart people. If you're smart, surround yourself with other smart people who think differently to you. And that's always stuck with me as kind of a particularly wise thing to do. Like you if you have that diversity of thought, you're going to come up with stuff. I would have think they want people like us in the room to come up with those different ideas, and put into the video of the song the kind of different types of neurodiversity and kind of people who there's Einstein in the mix with autism, and kind of these incredibly intelligent, best in their fields around the world. A lot of them have got neurodiversity. Like that can be a great thing for driving people. When you feel like, you know, when you don't assume boundaries are in your place, you know, you don't put the boundaries in your own way. I think it can make the difference.
Yeah.
And we can also order off a menu much quicker. I hate waiting for people. Pick something in half an hour.
See, that's a superpower.
But tell us about the kind of the role which a chair has to do in day to day with the charity.
So it's really around, I suppose, governance. So it's around making sure, you know, in terms of compliance, in terms of making sure that, you know, we've got the bits in place that we need to. So making sure that, you know, there's a strategic direction, making sure that we've got some focus, and really working closely with Nikki as a CEO, and I work with Charlotte as well. We kind of try and have, you know, regular conversations or, you know, at least messaging around ideas and things that are going to, you know, hopefully take the charity forward. And trying to, you know, come up with ideas around things that we can implement and take forward, which I have to say Nikki is fantastic at. She's so passionate that it's kind of, you know, makes my work easy. But
it's why I want to work with the charity. It's because of meeting Nicola and seeing her enthusiasm for it. And I'd had one other charity I reached out to who hadn't even replied, and Nicola was so passionate. I was like, well, I'm not going to wait for someone who doesn't want to get back to me. Even like I've got this other charity who's very passionate.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's around. So one of the things we've been looking at, and then Nick's looked at recently, is like the mission statement and making sure, you know, that we're aligned with that. And it's just making sure that everything comes back to what that initial mission or vision was of Nikki's when she set it up, because that's the important bit. Whatever we do, it's about making sure it relates back, and actually we're meeting that remit that she was really passionate about and wanted to kind of take forward. Sometimes it's around, I suppose, sort of collaboration or decision making, and, you know, making sure we've got the right structures in place, all of that stuff. I always call that stuff like the housekeeping stuff. You've got the housekeeping stuff, and then you've got the bits, haven't you, that are really kind of light everyone's fires and kind of get everyone kind of really involved. So it's just really a sort of a scrutiny role, I suppose. And I mean, I'm relatively new in, so I am learning as I go. But it's a really good opportunity, and it's nice to see, you know, even in the short time that I've been, it's nice to see that some, you know, a few things have been progressing, and we've got some ideas in terms of some future projects that the charity can get involved in, you know, and it's really exciting because it's they look across the UK, so like with the Waiting Well and some of the stuff that we're sort of looking at. But then also that sort of overseas, and I think it's just a great opportunity as well for the therapists that work in the L Centre to be able to go off and share their skills as well. So it's kind of, I love the balance of it. It's a really nice feel, and it's kind of, you know, I mean, my trade's social work, but I think if I was a therapist, I'd be knocking on the door of the Owl trying to get in, because it's, you know, not very often you get that opportunity. It's really exciting.
I think it's also I think with all these collaborations with these people, some which you've worked with the Owl, then gone overseas, some which you've reached out to overseas. I think partnerships like that are such good value for money, basically, because every penny for a charity is so tight. So if you can learn from each other, that's not totally free, because sometimes there's travel involved and stuff, but very low cost for what you're getting out of it. A learning experience of like it's something I was talking about earlier, like learning from people from around the world.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, you know, talking to Nikki, and I've recently had a conversation with Madhavi, and it was, you know, learning and that exchange of experience and trying to kind of, us to understand their, Madawi's culture and implications, and likewise. And it just feels like it's sort of a big connection, really. It feels like things come together, and it just, the balance is just really positive in terms of that. So I think, yeah. And I think in terms of, I think it's really hard for charities at the moment. It's hard enough when you're working in statutory services. So I can, it gives me another viewpoint, really, in terms of actually, there's a lot of things that actually in contemporary society are met by charity now, which may not have been before. And it's kind of, they're stepping into that third sector, aren't they? Or they are the third sector, and we're kind of having to be more and more reliant on them in terms of actually getting some of the stuff done that actually might have sat within a statutory service before. So it's really important that we kind of support, obviously the Owl Centre charity. That's our thing today. But I think all charities, and just, it's really important to kind of make sure that they can keep going, and they do phenomenal work, don't they? Everywhere.
Yeah, I think it's incredible, these charities. One of the other charities we had one year for Squeefest was Phoenix Rehoming, who that's where I got my dog Willow from. They rehome dogs from around Europe and the UK, a lot of Romanian rescues who would just be put down otherwise. And it was fact that they were always fundraising for their next rescue. And that always stuck with me, that they were always doing something online. It's like, this isn't just going into our general charity, but this is going to rescue these particular dogs on this date. It just, and I know that's the dance which every charity does. It's like, it's not as prescriptive as that, but basically, we've just got the money coming into the door in time for it to go out again. Basically, it's just theirs was more directly, this pays for this flight, this pays for this flight.
And there is a huge amount,
and it's always changing the landscape of what funding you're going to get. Sorry to jump in there.
No, go on. I think as well, like the bit the charities do, because services are so stretched in a way, the bit that charities do is around that quality, isn't it? So it's around, being able to put something in that's going to really benefit somebody in that quality of their life. So, for example, the dogs that you would do, but because I think the remit sometimes for services is so slim because of where funding and everything is, that actually the charity sector is the bit that is able to be a bit more diverse, a bit more reactive, a bit more trying to kind of, meet needs that improve quality of life significantly for people, and I think that's what I saw in the Waiting Well. And like you're saying, they got some funding, and it specifically is just for that website. So it's very much sort of, you're looking for funding against certain ideas that you're going to progress and take forward as a collective. So yeah, it is really amazing.
But it's I guess like I'm endlessly impressed just how you keep on just restructuring ever thinner money to keep services going, and not just keep them going, to expand them. How do you manage to keep expanding in this way and keep the funding possible?
Well, I think that comes down to teamwork. So we have some amazing trustees, because obviously the Owl Centre doesn't employ anyone per se, but we have trustees who are really committed in. And the best thing, I think, is that actually we all bring different strengths. So we all have different experiences. So I think you've got Bridget on next, who's a Senko. I've got, my experience in terms of social work. We've got Charlotte, and we've got Helen as well. And of course, Nikki sits with us as the CEO, But that collective group together is the driving force, because that's the group that, in the four, I would say, Nikki and Charlotte are, amazing. but it's the collective in terms of being able to take it forward. And as with a lot of other charities, it's done in time, which actually, it's your own time, and you're putting your time into it to be able to get things progress forward, which is, a huge commitment really for people. But it's really great when you can see the benefit of it. And I think that probably outweighs it all. The fact that you can, there's some tangible, and that's what's nice about the Owl Centre. There is tangible around waiting well, or when you've got therapists abroad setting up, therapies and all of that. There's some nice tangible kind of outcomes that actually, there is an impact, and there's a direct impact for people. And it's evolving. Everything's always evolving. So it's sort of, we are at this moment where we are, but there's vision and there's progress that we're going to be making. So it's that kind of push. And I really see that with the Owl, actually. And I think that's the passion, and probably back to Nikki again, but it's that passion that kind of drives it and makes it kind of push forward.
And it's I was saying about kind of the charity being so involved. I kind of like appreciated how kind of careful they were with the brand, with the way everything's worded on the kind of posts and everything, and it just showed that level of care. Usually as a dyslexic person, I kind of can get a little defensive inside about my spelling, less so as the years go on anyway, but just I never felt that at all, because I knew it's all just about care of kind of what they communicate, how they're perceived by everyone, how the charity is perceived. And it just really shows how everyone is just on the same page, is so committed to everything being right for the Owl Centre. Is there kind of training you put into that, or is it just people come in who've just got that spirit?
I think it's the people. We don't have specific training for trustees, although that is something that, because it's such a small charity at the moment, it's brought through from the individuals themselves. So everybody, but again, going back to everyone brings such a wealth of experience in our sort of day-to-day roles, that actually I think that influences in itself. So I think, we've got and we're, I would say, probably quite an eclectic bunch if you look at our sort of backgrounds, although people might seem similar. There is a huge range of skill, and some people are far better at the business side of it. Some people are better at the development concept of ideas. Some are better at the finance. So it's kind of it just, like sometimes you get a group of people and you just gel. It just feels like that, really, that it's kind of everyone sort of comes together. And I think, and with any sort of organisation, really, when you've got a clear directive and you've got that clear vision and what Nikki wants to achieve with it, I think that helps, because I think everybody then is in the same kind of, journey, and we're all, we all get it, and we all know where we're heading. So it's so exciting. I do feel very privileged to be on the board of trustees, because it's a very exciting opportunity. It's really different maybe from what my day-to-day is, although we cross over in terms of so the learning disability and autism functions of my day-to-day job, but actually it's nice to see the wider, so I get just as much out of it as I put in, which I think everybody would probably say. It's that kind of, although you're doing it to kind of, I don't know, it's the voluntary, isn't it? But it actually, you get so much back, which is brilliant.
Yeah. And you just get the feel like it's kind of really interesting that with all the people I've spoken to in different countries, it seemed to be about 50-50 who was kind of ones from other organizations and who just worked with you and kept a relationship with you, and thusly just by people kind of like going to countries or going back to countries they'd originally hailed from. There is something about that network that you've established. I don't think people do that for organizations they haven't enjoyed working with.
Yeah. And that comes back to Nikki. I mean, Nikki, you spoke to her yesterday, didn't you? But she's always enjoyed traveling and meeting new people and keeps links with people. She's quite unique in terms of her. I think wherever Nikki goes, she probably walks out with a handful of friends and contacts who she avidly kind of, you know, keeps in contact with, and which is, it's amazing really. And but that is it, it's the personal bit of it, isn't it? That's the bit that actually, you know, and being able to phone people and have those on the ground contacts, which actually is really important. I think sometimes it can be difficult because, you know, and the uniqueness of the Owl charity is it's small, but actually you do get that personal bit. Whereas I think maybe when you're in a bigger charity and, you know, there's probably so much structural stuff you have to deal with, it's easy to lose that personal touch. So I think that's something that we're really lucky. And Nikki just had the vision. I mean, when she started it, it was funny because before I got involved, she said, "Oh, I'm really passionate. I think this is where I want to focus." And I think this is her taking it into the reality and using everything that she's got as well to really drive it forward. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and I think there's it's something very neurodivergent about I said this actually in relation to the dogs charity, because people would say, why do you have a Romanian rescue? Aren't there enough dogs here? It's like my compassion isn't geo-locked, and I think it's a lot harder, I think, for neurodivergent people to draw what are essentially artificial boundaries between people. I think we're more apt to think differently, to kind of to not have those confines that some people have the thinking. So it's like, it's sort of your model and the way you kind of have reached out with people around the world. It seems to follow that.
Yeah. And I think you know, Nikki started her first, when she did a gap year in Sri Lanka, and I think, you know, she still has close friends, you know, and I think it brings it back to that ethos, doesn't it? It's a very inclusive ethos, I think, that they have, and I think that is, you know, like you were saying, because you'd approached her and she's receptive and coming back, and you know, and that is, you know, exactly how it should be. But that's when Nikki and, you know, they have it right, don't they, in terms of that.
Yeah. It's now whenever the company Edible, who were Waiting Well, was being promoted through them, and whenever they have anything to do with mental health now, they know that I'm going to jump straight on it, so they kind of sometimes highlight those ones particularly to me. I'm on their mailing list generally, but they'll sometimes send me one going, "Oh, we send this early, we think you might be interested in this," and that's very useful if I skip past the email and a bit of an ADHD rush and not really read it properly or not had the time, or put it in this bank of emails that I'm going to get to. So like, it's nice when they tag me. And yeah, it's just, it was hearing about the charity and just how passionate everyone was behind it. And it's like, I could tell Nicola wasn't just doing it because this is a Christian job she's got, or it's like, it's a job, oh, it's nice, I help people. The passion first is for the people, and that's the kind of enthusiasm you can't fake. You can tell when someone's selling something, when someone's living it.
Yeah, absolutely. And she said it's funny because it's sort of because you do it around say the day job, but you'll suddenly get, like, you could tell like people have been thinking like at like 10 o'clock at night, somebody might have a thought about something, and a WhatsApp message comes in, and then you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and you're kind of you're all trying, contributing in, and it's kind of that. It's really, I suppose, organic. Is that kind of, you get much. It's quite fluid in terms of the sort of how it works really, but it's interesting because you can see that people, they're not just thinking about it 9 to 5. It is the whole. I think all the trustees, there's this sort of, if something comes into their mind, they share it, and then we kind of, and people are starting to progress thoughts on it, and how could that develop, or what should we do about this? And it's kind of, which I really like, because it's so, in a way, it's quite free in an approach compared to maybe, I don't know, I work for a local authority, and I love my job, but the grindstone in terms of making changes in big organizations, where you've got to be able to get agreement for this, and then you have to go to that panel, and then you go to this panel, and it just feels it's a lot freer and a lot more, and again, that's the passionate side of it, I think, because everybody, has something that they want to contribute. So it is a really unique kind of, I suppose, relationship and board, really.
Sounds like it's a good mix as well, where when you do stuff as a chair of a charity, there's a more systemic push, I would guess. And when you're doing it, when you're working for local authority, you're the boots on the ground. So I would imagine that kind of diversity of work between those two would be interesting as well.
It's quite nice. It's nice to have both sides, actually, because I think with the owl, it's a bit more freer. And then I can bring in, the I suppose in statutory it's a very sort of conformist, so you're having to work within policies and procedures, but there's things that obviously in the owl we have to have our policies and procedures, and making sure everything's as it should be. So it's a bit boring, but that's sort of my bag. I'm like, I think I put in somewhere the other day, I love a policy, and I'm like, Christ, how boring is that? But kind of like, yeah, it's
well, if you had the slide before yours, I was talking to Marsh from Run Classical, and we were talking about our joyous spreadsheets, so we get it.
I'm in good company then.
You are. I was saying that the sort of the bit where I didn't it's basically because for the posters, obviously I was trying to get my spelling correct. Rid did very carefully help me. That was very kind of him. But it was the spreadsheet which I'd done, which was only ever meant to be me facing. And when Nicola asked for that, I go, oh, but there'll be loads of spelling mistakes and stuff. And I knew that wasn't what she was using it for or anything, but it was like I had to ignore the brain goblins, as I nicknamed them, at that particular moment, and just send it and not think about it. Yeah. I managed to get them to behave for a minute. Why did this kind of like line of work? What was it that kind of got you first interested?
What, in terms of owl, or
working with people who are neurodiverse, working kind of to help people in general?
Do you know what? It's really bizarre. Because I qualified as a social worker in 2001, so a few moons ago, and I sort of evolved into it. I just did support work. I knew people, and it just felt like a match. And for some reason, I just sort of evolved. But then so my first role was actually support work with people with learning disabilities and probably autistic people, although you didn't really know at the time that was the label. So it was kind of, I loved it. Oh, it was amazing. It never felt like work. I always felt I used to think, I can't believe people are paying me for this. This is ridiculous, because it was, you know, it is hard work, support work, but it was kind of, and that was where I started, and then it just sort of evolved, and I ended up, it was really, yeah, I was working in London, and it was in the 90s, so it was quite different, and I think because what you realise is how interesting people are. I think I'm probably just nosy, but like I love meeting people with different experiences and different, you know, different life events and things like that. And I always just feel like I'm sort of a, you know, even with the social work bit, you know, it's a real privilege where somebody opens up to you and, you know, you can help them progress in whichever way is important for them. And it's kind of, and you get that kind of, like you can see the end impact, and that's really, you know, that's quite rewarding in itself, really, when you can help people to kind of progress and do something that they probably might not have achieved, or, you know, broken down a barrier, or, I mean, it's just, but it's funny because some people go into it and they're very consciously going into it, I think. So my other half is a social worker as well, and he was very focused about going into social work from quite a young age, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I really had loved doing support work, and so I was kind of like, I think it was the meeting people. I never quite imagined I'd be sitting at a desk as much as I do, but
I'm sorry to jump in, Laura. I want to play a short clip in a minute. I'm going to take a wee break to wake myself up a little bit before the next interview. I think kind of what sums up what you were saying is, it just reminds me, it was used in Ted Lasso recently, but it was a Walt Whitman quote, which is be curious, not judgmental. And I think there's many people who choose the judgmental side of it, which we come across so often. It's lovely to have people like yourself who are more curious. And as I've been asking everyone, you don't get away with it just because you're the chair. How do you, and I'm still going to use this hashtag, I have no idea if anyone's used it. I haven't even had a chance to check socials, but how do you think different yourself?
Oh, God. I think it's about that. So for me, with my experience, I would say and I don't know if it's thinking differently, but never assume, always have the conversation and always kind of open up. And even if you think you know what things are, ask the questions and you can't go wrong. It's that sort of, you know, just being open to having different conversations. Definitely.
Yeah, truly listening without your preconceptions up. That's a great one. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for all the great work that you and everyone at the L does. It's a real privilege to represent you guys. Hopefully we'll get some more money coming.
Thank you so much, Squee. We really appreciate it. And it's a great effort. So good luck for the rest of the time.
Oh, and if anyone saw the video yesterday, there was 2 bits which I had to add on afterwards because it wasn't all right. Like, I got the video ready, but there's a bit at the beginning and a bit at the end. I won't spoil it, but we'll play it again a little bit. So, guys, if you saw it yesterday, there's an extra kind of couple of little bits added on, but I won't spoil the fun. Thank you very much. You take care.
Thanks, Squee.
And that's it from Dr. Squee Show and Squeefest this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's interview. There'll be information on where to find our guest in the show notes. However, for the meantime, I've been Dr. Squee. That was my show, and a world where you can be truly anything. Please be kind.